Come on, we have to take in new shooters. I'm a huge fan of the National Shooting Sports Foundation's +1 campaign to bring new shooters in, whether it be for target practice, shooting, sports, hunting. There are all these really great initiatives from all these different great groups, and it's up to each and every one of us to find new people to bring into this. Because, like the previous speaker said, come on guys, we're getting kind of old here. We need some fresh blood. And I gotta give a shout out to Maj. He's somewhere in here. Maj does great work. He does phenomenal work in our inner cities to get different people in and to bring a different voice. So as we go about our day, ask yourself what you're doing. Remember, it's not just about showing up and voting. It's about getting others to do the same thing. Because for far too long, too many of us have said, there's a Republican, Trump won't sign it. There are Republicans in the Senate, they'll never take it up. But we can't rely on them. And I've said that for time and time again, and especially with these red flag laws coming up and universal background checks, they're proving that it doesn't matter what letter is behind your name. It's about what you do. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Steve Gutowski. I'm a reporter with the Washington Free Beacon. And I'm here today to challenge you a little bit on some of the things that you might believe about the media and some of the things you might believe about how effective you can be in changing the way that guns are covered in the United States. If I was in front of a room of reporters, I would have a different message challenging them to get better at their jobs on covering guns. But instead, I'm here today in front of some very knowledgeable, very active gun rights advocates, and I have a different message for you, and that message is you can make a difference in how the media cover firearms in this country. You can make a difference in how accurate stories are on this subject. You can make a difference in how well reporters understand the issue. It's something that I personally do almost nonstop in my job. Even though my role is mainly to report on firearms policy and politics, a lot of my time is spent trying to assist other reporters in getting their stories right. Because I believe that that is the most important thing in journalism. It's why I got into journalism, to accurately tell people's stories, to inform my audience, not to spread. My time is taken up helping reporters from other outlets try and get the facts right. Which I think is something that everyone in this room can also do. All you need is the desire and a little bit of knowledge on how to best interact with reporters that you might come into contact with. And so that's what I want to help you with today, is just give you a few tips on how best to do that. Because it is something that I understand is very frustrating. Trust me, I am constantly feel like I'm the ombudsman for the entire media, and it's not fun. It's very frustrating, especially when you're talking about an issue like how our background check system works in this country. Some of the misconceptions there, and we've talked about this over and over again. And you expect that reporters at top outlets should have a better understanding of how these things work, and oftentimes they don't, even if they're good reporters. There are plenty of reporters out there who, aren't reachable. There are people, some of the most famous people in media, some of the TV hosts, and you all know who they are, are not people that you're going to be able to influence. They're not people interested in getting the facts right or informing their audience. They're more interested in pushing, whatever their political agenda is. And this obviously happens on both sides of the aisle, but you guys experience this with guns very often, right? But I would contend that most reporters, especially the reporters focused on hard news, not writing opinion pieces, these are the people that you can actually inform, that want to learn, they want to get the facts right, they want their stories to be accurate. It's not a totally hopeless cause. It just isn't. I have personally helped reporters on stories at every major outlet in the media, and they will come back to me and ask me for advice on stories because of the way that I try to handle this, and it's a way that I think a lot of you are perfectly capable of doing. Most people in this room are very informed on this issue. Most of you are essentially experts. The crowd that comes to this convention, and so I think that you're just as capable as I am of helping reporters get the facts right. And I think the best way to do this is, one, to focus on hard news stories, where you see somebody writing something that's incorrect in your local paper or on your local television, or even in a national paper like the Washington Post or the New York Times or wherever, and you see a story and it gets a fact wrong about the gun issue, about a piece of legislation, about the politics of it, whatever it is, if it's a fact and you know that is wrong and you can prove that's wrong, then the best thing you can do is contact that reporter and tell them that it's wrong, show them how it's wrong. But reporters are human too, so be polite, be courteous, and you'll get further. Reach out through their email, which is almost always listed on their stories, and reach out especially through Twitter, where many reporters are absolutely available and will listen to you if you approach them in the right way. And be a resource, often taking the range off, to explain how guns work. Most of them, a lot of reporters they didn't grow up around guns, they don't know these things, and this is where you can come in and help, and you can be that person to be a resource. And that's what I would encourage you to do. And I think if you do that, I believe you'll have success, especially if you focus on your local outlets first, as opposed to the national ones. That's where you can really have a bigger impact if you try it. So that's my message to you. Be a resource, be a fact checker, be polite, and you'll see results. So, thank you.
Hey, good to be with y'all. AWR Hawkins, I write for the Courier Journal. Joking. Shout out to Louisville, though. Shout out to Louisville. I'm kidding. I did that because Stephen walked up to me a while ago and goes, "Who are you writing for lately?" I mean, I'm wearing it, Breitbart, and proud to be there. Anyway, I want to start a little unorthodox. Have y'all seen that movie, Bedtime Stories? And the guy Nottingham is in it, and they do the chant, and he goes, "I say nodding, you say hand." You know what I'm talking about? Like how we go, nodding. I say nodding, you say nodding, nodding. Now here's what we're going to do. Keep that cadence in your mind. I'm going to say come in, you're going to say take it. Come in, take it. Come in, take it. You ready? At the Gun Rights Policy Conference, bunch of freedom lovers. I say come in, you say come in, come in. I say come in, you say come in, come in. All right, way to go. That's where we start. Now look, keeping with what I'm supposed to do, let's look at media perspective on some things. I'm just going to throw out five phrases they use quite often. The gun lobby, assault weapons ban, the Charleston loophole, the private gun sale loophole, the gun show loophole. Thinking about all this, you get it, they use these phrases because of our establishment media. You got to use that word establishment media because Stephen is in the media, but he's not writing this garbage. I'm in the media, I'm not writing this garbage. So there are some media outlets that are outside of what we would call establishment media, and that's important to keep in mind. But the establishment media uses these phrases, and the whole goal is slowly put a little shame on you. And slowly criticize things. Remember, it was the establishment media that gave us that terrifying phrase, full semi-automatic. Remember that? That scared me to death. I brought my AR in, I laid it on the bed, and we talked about it. I go, are you really full semi-automatic? This is scary. Right? These people don't know what they're talking about. They don't care. Their goal is to scare you and to scare me, to shame Donald Trump, to shame Mitch McConnell, to shame Ted Cruz. We can keep going. It's not going to work with Cruz, but we know that, all right? We can keep going. Now, I want you to give some thought to this, to the terminology. Let's just think about the establishment media's use of the word gun lobby or the phrase gun lobby. Now, what this means is, of course, the Second Amendment Foundation, the NRA, Gun Owners of America. I shouldn't list any gun groups because you can't list them all, but it means any gun group that you know of is part of the gun lobby. And instead of fighting for, see, that's positive, instead of fighting for the Second Amendment, they present these groups as fighting against what? Kid safety, suicide reduction, school safety. All the while, these very same talking heads of the established media are doing everything they can to make sure schools are a gun-free zone where teachers cannot conduct classroom defense. See, all the while, they're the culprits, but they're using these phrases to throw you off and put you on the defense, all right? I want you to think about this. The media paints a picture of defending the Second Amendment, not of defending, but of undercutting gun safety, all right? And they tar and feather Second Amendment groups as standing in the way, as I said. What do you think about it? As standing in the way of keeping kids safe and of reducing suicide and all this. But if you'll think about it, none of their clear, but you look at someone like Lott, he knows these numbers back and forth. You look at when our homicides went back up, I believe 2017 was the year. What drove those homicides up? Chicago, New Orleans, right? St. Louis. All these Democrat-controlled cities that are gun-controlled cities. So in other words, all the solutions that the establishment media are pushing, those are causal, or they at least correlate with an increase in murder, right? But they're trying to shame me with these little catchphrases. It doesn't really work, all right? And another aspect of their gun lobby claim that doesn't work is that they try to act like the gun lobby's dumping so much money into these campaigns, and the gun lobby's running roughshod over everybody. And anybody who really looks at the numbers know, if we just pick on the NRA, they were out. These groups have millions of dollars, not to mention the Tom Steyers and others on the outside who are billionaires and who are given everything they can to be sure that they restrict the Second Amendment, right? So when you hear these word plays from the media, and not just the gun lobby, when you hear assault weapons and this and that, you gotta go back to the source, understand what these things mean. They don't mean what they say they mean. These are tools they use to control you and control me, all right? So one of the first things we do when we deal with the establishment media is we have to reject what they're saying.
I'd like you all to say happy birthday to AWR's better half, who let it come here today, so happy birthday to Heidi. Sam, we've started calling the established media, we're calling them the legacy media. They've been around a really long time, but that isn't necessarily a good thing. They're the legacy media, we're stuck with them. Okay, Mark, thank you.
Yesterday, by the way. First of all, as a board member of the CCRKBA, I want to welcome everybody here. It's a huge event, and I've got something really special I'd like to do first. There's an individual, very close friend of mine, and a close friend of all of ours, who is in the audience today. Paul Markle, where are you? Where's Paul Markle? Paul, stand up. Thank you for being here. Paul's not on the speaker list today, but it wasn't too long ago. Cancer-free. I don't normally come here with prepared comments because I learned a long time ago that I can't stick to them. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. In Chicago a number of years ago, I was in the cab, and she sits down next to me. She says, "Are you going to the such and such conference?" I said, "No, I'm speaking at the Gun Rights Policy Conference." "Oh, I love guns. I grew up with our lives. Everything except those assault rifles." At which point I looked at the cab driver and I said, "How much time do we have so I can fix her before we get to the hotel?" In about 8 minutes, I fixed her because she was cracked. She wasn't broken. But I want you to think, here's a girl that grew up around guns her whole life. Where did she come up with that narrative? Right? Certainly not from home, so keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this. Last year, Chicago, how many people were there? Remember the doctors' convention? Yeah. Alan Gottlieb and I were walking Winston. We were coming back into the hotel. We get to the bottom of the escalator. We meet a gentleman, and we said, "You go ahead and go first." And he says, No, go ahead. He goes, "Hey, are you guys here? Are you guys here for the doctor's thing?" And I said, "Well, thank you. I'm not an eye doctor, but I appreciate the fact that you think I look as educated as you think I do." I said, "We're here for the Gun Rights Policy Conference." And he said, "Oh, yeah, we were warned about you." "We were warned about you." And I said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" He says, "Well, we got a letter from those who put on the conference apologizing to all of us attendees because they didn't know that we were going to be there." Whoa. The most law-abiding Americans in the country and some of the most educated are petrified of us. So here's my theme. Where do you think they draw that narrative from? They get it from the mainstream media, legacy media, as Julian just reminded me. So I came here hoping for that sign from God that I'm going to get another sign that somebody's going to give me something because I didn't have anything prepared. At 6:30 this morning, it still hadn't hit me, and about 6:34 it came to me. It was given to you 3 weeks ago when you were in Tombstone with Mr. Kurt Schilling. When Kurt and I were doing a celebrity event at the Freedom Days, and the mainstream Channel 5 News in Tucson showed up, wanted to interview Kurt at an event we were doing at the Oriental Saloon. They insisted when he walked outside that he take off his pro-Trump hat and not mention the Second Amendment. Now, Kurt Schilling is a very outspoken individual and a good friend of mine, and I was really worried about him, so I went and tried to save him before he got himself in trouble. That wasn't necessary. He handled it very well, so they turned to me and said, "Would you do the interview?" I said, "I host Armed American Radio. Can I even tell you that, or are you afraid of the name of my radio program?" So Gordon Anderson, who's in the room, kindly did it and did handle the interview very well. So I mention these things to you for a reason. Because here we were censored by the media at a pro-gun Second Amendment rally event in Tombstone, Arizona, and that media was from Tucson. How does that work? Okay? Now, they apologized and they hung out with us and had drinks with us for the rest of the night. They were a lot of fun. But it wasn't their fault. So here's what we're up against, and that's what I want to let you know. This is what we're up against. From that girl who grew up around guns, swayed by a biased media, to some of the most educated people on earth, so afraid of us because of what they see and what they hear. So imagine a world where the truth was told. Imagine if they heard that. Imagine if Lester Holt started the NBC Evening News with a 64-year-old man today used an AR-15 to kill 2 of 4 intruders who tried to kill him and raped his wife. And they did the same thing on ABC, NBC, and CBS. Guess what would happen? People's perspectives would change that they like to talk about, would be the anomaly that it really truly is because the perspective would change. They're not going to do that. Those are called lies of omission. So here's what we do. We're going to keep talking about it. We're going to keep writing about it. You're going to keep consuming it. And we need you to share it. And when we do that and work in unison together, guess what happens? We fill that void and the truth is told. And guess what happens when the truth is told? We win. because freedom will always prevail. I believe that. I'll see you on the radio. Bye.
I'd like to say thank you to the panel. While I wait for Chris Chang, Andrew, Jean, Declan, and Laura to come up here to the stage, I would like to ask my current speakers to exit. And I would like to tell you that the speakers, only the speakers' luncheon will be in Canyon 1. You are not to eat in there. I need you to come back into this room. But the speakers' luncheon will not be there until 11:45. So I see I have Jean, Chris, Laura, Declan, and the late Andrew. Not late. Ladies and gentlemen, could I ask you to leave so the others can Thank you. If you could take your... I am really glad this year to get to meet Chris Chang. I have to admit, Chris, can I have you take the mic, please? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So we're here to talk a little bit about how culture drives gun politics, and I want to share a little bit about my personal journey and experience, and how culture has literally, drawn me in. And so my background is I'm History Channel's Top Shot Season 4 champion. If you haven't seen the show, thank you. If you haven't seen the show, in short, it's a marksmanship competition bringing Americans from all walks of life, right, to compete on a really, really fun show. And so 10 years ago, my educational, and it was fun. And on the education piece, I remember watching a challenge where these competitors were shooting AR-15s. And I'm like watching this, I'm like, whoa, okay, wait, these are just, civilians shooting AR-15s. And then it got me wondering, hey, like, can civilians like me own an AR-15? And it was the beginning, right, of a discovery. Okay, yeah, sure. Even though I live in California, I owned an AR-15, and now I own many. And no, you will not be taking away my AR-15s. So my background is I'm a self-taught amateur shooter, going up against military guys and law enforcement. And before I auditioned for my season, I owned 3 guns. And so, and also I wasn't into the Second Amendment. I didn't really feel like I was part of gun culture. Sure, I owned some guns. I'd go to the range on occasion and shoot them. But I wasn't waking up every morning, checking my phone and reading about what Second Amendment news is happening, what Calguns Foundation is up to, what mess the NRA has stepped into, lately kind of thing. I was just the Second Amendment to me was one of those Bill of Rights things, right, that I learned in school, and that it just really wasn't a daily focus for me. But after winning Top Shot, I won $100,000. I won a professional shooting contract with Bass Pro Shops. I quit my job at Google. And my background is Silicon Valley. I started my career in the tech industry, and I left one of the best companies to work for in the world to come find out what is it like to be one of us. And I had my fears, I will be honest, because I'm a gay guy. I'm part of the LGBT community, and I came into this community, in the firearms community, thinking, oh shit, sorry. Sorry, I just did. Yeah, good. But I was concerned that, oh my God, gosh, am I gonna run into bigoted, anti-gay people, right, here in the firearms community? And I gotta tell you that I was pleasantly surprised that the Second Amendment community has welcomed me and other LGBT members with open arms, because it doesn't matter if you're gay, it doesn't matter if you're Asian, right? For us, it is about freedom. It is about protecting our Second Amendment rights. And it is about being out and vocal. And so another parallel that I think about with gay rights and gun rights is that if you look at me if some random person looks at me on the street, they're not going to know that I'm gay. They're not going to know that I'm a gun owner unless I tell them, right? And so it is up to each of us to be out as gun owners, to put on the positive face, right, of the gun community, right? That we're not scary people. We're not the criminals. We're not the dangerous ones. We're not the ones that the government needs to be regulating and controlling. It's the bad guys. And so I want to conclude, let's talk about my terrorist status in San Francisco. What a joke. What a joke. All right, so if you haven't heard, right, a few weeks ago, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors passed a non-binding resolution designating the NRA as a domestic terrorist organization. I'm a lifetime member of the NRA. And what is happening here? That the government, my local government, does not agree with the Second Amendment, does not agree with citizens and residents of San Francisco who agree with the Second Amendment and support it. And so what have they done? They have applied the terrorist label in an effort to suppress my First Amendment right, as well as my Second Amendment right. And that, to me, sounds and looks like tyranny. There's obviously a lot of conversations about what does tyranny look like. In being a resident of San Francisco, I'm seeing it happen, and I won't stand for this tyrannical government to control me, and neither should you. Thank you.
Well, no, that's probably smart of you to step out of San Francisco. And now this is a first for me. This is really very, very strange. There have been more GRPCs than Andrew has had birthdays. And I can actually remember the very specific day when he became taller than I am tall. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce Ellen and my son, who has earned his place by himself, Andrew GunTube.
Well, now I'm back on the slide. So I'm actually here, this is a weird panel, which is one that is actually one of my favorites that we've been doing at GRPC, because it is so different. This is 5 people now that are up on stage that are going to give you a different perspective, different ideas on what we can do to grow this room so that it's not just this room. This conference is being live streamed on Facebook right now. And that gave me the idea to create this new project we're going to work on called 2A Gaming, which sounds like an interesting idea and it doesn't really make a lot of sense to a lot of people. But let me give you some numbers. 65% of adults in the United States play video games. 60% of those are active in politics. And now half of those play games that revolve around firearms. They're called shooter games. So you do the math. 65% of adults, it's 160 million people. Half of them playing gun games, 80 million, and 60% of those are active voters, people who will decide this country's politics on guns, 48 million people. That's 48 million people that we have to reach out to that are going to help us change the attack on gun culture. They're going to let us expand our base, get younger, and just have more fun doing it too. So for a lot of people, video games are their first and only interaction with firearms. It's our job to encourage that relationship. I mean, I personally enjoy guns and video games a lot more because I don't have to pay for ammunition. And the big thing is this, I know Lara's going to talk about this. The Second Amendment does not and shouldn't be a partisan issue. It should not be down party lines when we go to Congress. It should not depend who is president to worry about if your gun rights are safe or not. And you have so many people playing video games using guns every day who are very diverse in who they vote for, but they have that connection with us. So in August, those people were told by politicians that they were part of something that was to blame for a violent act committed by one individual. They didn't agree. Does that sound familiar to any of us? So just like law-abiding gun owners for the target of similar blame, they're right to be upset based on the problem. And they say, no, it's guns. But neither of those are true. And we can't afford to be losing more people. We have to grow this movement. We have to get younger. So now back to advice from them. It drives quite a bit of money in this country. It's a $43 billion industry. Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Mixer are the biggest platforms, and they are growing rapidly. Even TV networks are struggling to compete against them. And just so you guys know, you have Twitch, which is owned by Amazon. YouTube is owned by Google. Facebook is obviously Facebook, and Mixer is owned by Microsoft. You have some of the biggest tech companies that are becoming some of the biggest places for people to go to basically get information. So 2-8 Gaming is something we're going to be doing. We're going to be live streaming on Facebook while playing games and talking about Second Amendment issues. So current events, issues. And what was really cool is last night I went to Best Buy because we had issues with the tech setup in here. And as I was browsing for what I needed to get, somebody noticed what I was looking at and asked if I streamed. I told him what I did, told him I explained what I was starting, and he was like, oh my god, I was a lot more fun sharing why we like guns to everybody else. And we were going to help shift the cultural war so that we are not on the losing end. Thank you.
I'm Gene Hoffman. I am the founder and chairman of the artist formerly known as the Cal Guns Foundation, now the California Gun Rights Foundation, but still CGF. Culture drives politics. It's an important point, and I want to say something that I think many of us don't realize. We're winning. We're going to win. We're going to literally drive the Second Amendment in 7 or 8 states that cannot accept it. Somebody said to me, because I'm an accused terrorist, I work in San Francisco. They're like, boogaloo? I was like, no. The threat needs to be credible, and the San Francisco Board of Supervisors are not credible. When Beto O'Rourke says, I'm coming to take it, you need to respond with unhappiness. But the truth is, he's the weirdo. This guy has decided that he does not want to be elected in Texas. And this is actually my core point. I want us to change the way we talk. Right, everyone understood to be fundamental to not need to be protected. And in fact, for a good 180 years, all of a sudden we got under attack. And the other problem is we're all nerds. I'm sorry, 2, 3. Okay? We nerds, we like to argue about the facts. And the thing is, we're right. Look, defensive gun use destroys any argument about taking guns away from all people. But that's not what the issue. The issue is emotional. And here's the thing. Because we've been under attack, because we've had to fight so hard over the last 40 years, single market for guns in America. Okay? We're winning. So, who do you want to hang out with? The guy or the girl who sits there going, about how many guns do you own from the government with I own them doesn't mean we don't all own them. We need to start that. We need to be the interesting and happy people in the room, telling them about, yeah, guns are cool. Like, being a gun owner means that, like, when an earthquake happens in California, I don't have to worry that the CHP doesn't come to my door. Right? And it's not because I'm worried about it, it's because, well, I also own a fire extinguisher. Right? It is time, especially in the moments of mass shooting, to be the people who are like, look, we can win on the facts, but the reality is you're sitting there talking about your neighbor. Just because you don't own a gun doesn't mean everyone beside you doesn't own a gun. In New York, in New Jersey, in Illinois, in California, and white. I mean, go to Chinatown in San Francisco and you will find every illegal gun probably also federally possibly found. A person willing to stand up at your office, at the fantasy football rinks, and say, yeah, I'm a gun owner, it's great. Well, what about these mass shootings? There are crazy motherfuckers out there. But I'm not one of them, and you aren't either. But maybe I am. But no, seriously, it is time for us to take the attitude of winners. We're about to actually sweep the board, act like it, invite people to talk to you, because it is a good thing. It is a majority thing. It is apple pie and baseball. We gun owners. Thank you.
California contingent, and I'm here representing a new Silicon Valley company called Talking, which I'll get to in a minute. But first I want to read some headlines over the last year or so. Twitter suspends Second Amendment Foundation's account on eve of annual gun rights conference. This was a few days ago, by the way, it's back now. Twitter suspends Republican lawmakers' reply to O'Rourke's proposed gun confiscation. Twitter locks Senator McConnell's quote from 5th century St. Augustine, the doctor of the church, as, quote, hate speech. Facebook blocks news article about Facebook blocking 5th century St. Augustine. Which you have to concentrate on your own sins, not someone else's. Standard Orthodox Christianity with evidence on Facebook. Twitter locks economist John Lott's account for discussing New Zealand mosque killers' views on guns. Reddit's quarantine of pro-Trump subreddit exposes more tech bias. YouTube deplatforms more Second Amendment advocates in another round of demonetization. Facebook deplatforms gun enthusiasts, eliminates Illinois Gun Owners Together group. Popular knitting platform Ravelry bans all Trump support as, quote, undeniably support for white supremacy, end quote. Apple told Parlay app developers to, quote, delete unacceptable users and would block updates if they didn't. But channels that discuss gun law and policy issues. And finally, Salesforce bars retailers from using its software to sell. Facebook lifts ban on promoting 3D printed gun blueprints, at least for, quote, legitimate vendors. I don't know how to do that. There's Facebook restores post quoting 5th century theologian St. Augustine. That was too much even for Facebook. And now all this deleting and suspending and demonetizing accounts is what I call deplatforming, and my sense is that it's getting worse. And it will keep getting worse because there's no natural limiting factor, at least according to many of these Silicon Valley companies. The limit who thinks on guns is not going to be able to share their political views online. Now, they can post photos of their children, they can post photos of or grandchildren, nieces and nephews, or talk about cars or their vacations. Because after all, these platforms are accurate and they have value for people using them. But this deplatforming doesn't have to completely say Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. For an incorrect opinion, maybe you're a little less likely at the margin to express it in the first place. And eventually, the scope of what's acceptable to talk about in public shrinks. And so that's why Second Amendment litigator Don Kilmer, who's up at, hey, Don, you're in the back of the room, wave your hand. We're announcing today in beta, and it's called Talking, and you can find it at talki.ng. and it's an aggregation, discussion, and messaging site that explicitly supports law-abiding Americans' right to self-defense. And you can post links to news articles, or you can post or propose laws or court opinions or whatever you like, and you go to verify. There's not one ad in the entire site that loads real fast. Our site Talking is transparent. We publish our algorithm. You can download the source code used to rank the stories on the front page. All moderator actions are disclosed publicly. There's no secret deplatforming, or we're going to bury you on the 14th page of search results going on here. About the only rule we're enforcing right now is what we call the media jackal rule. If you're posting about the stupidity or cupidity of some of our, many of our dear friends in the Fourth Estate, previous panel notwithstanding, you're supposed to tag that with the term media jackal. It's our preferred gender-neutral, politically correct way to refer to our hardworking friends in the Fourth Estate. So if USA Today comes out with another chainsaw, bayonet, flamethrower RPG video, and we're talking about you have to use the media jackal tag, and if failure to do so will result in this being on your permanent record. So again, you can find our new site at talki.ng, and we're still in beta if you want an account. Come find me afterwards or email me at declanmyfirst.
Good morning. I want to thank Second Amendment Foundation. They are truly the organization in our industry that's being inclusive, because my job in this world is that I am the national spokesperson for the Liberal Gun Club. I represent more than 10,000 liberal gun owners who interact with my organization every day. Gun ownership is normal. We need to be talking to the people we are not normally talking to. I'm sorry, I'm really happy to be here. There's more than 100 people in this room that are my friends. You're not my audience. I don't need to be talking to you. That's not my job. My job is everyone else. My job, because I'm me, I'm a 40-something baseball mom. I'm a liberal. I'm really a liberal. I am not a normal. I am not I'm a classical liberal. No, I'm liberal. All those things you and I probably don't agree on them, but that's okay, because guess what? I own a blue AR, and I don't shoot it. Okay, so first of all, I'm a woman, so I get to go talk to a room full of women. And as a matter of fact, I'm not here supporting my spouse. He's